The quiet, unassuming town of Hepsburg always had a charm about it. Nestled deep in the heart of America, almost untouched by the hustle and bustle of city life. The sun, seemingly ever so pale here, greeted the residents gently each morning, the fading dewdrops clinging to the fresh green leaves creating a symphony of serenity. One day, the peace was broken by the arrival of an outsider. The newcomer, who introduced himself as Dmitri, was unlike anyone the townsfolk had ever encountered. His alabaster skin contrasted sharply with his deep black hair, and his eyes, oh those eyes, were as penetrating as they were mesmerizing. Dmitri purchased the old mansion at the edge of town, a place that had long stood abandoned and draped in mystery. As he roamed the streets, his fascination with the town's nightlife soon became apparent. While most of Hepsburg's residents found comfort in the folds of their beds as darkness fell, Dmitri came alive. His daily strolls didn't start until the last rays of the sun died down. His peculiar behavior caught the eyes of the town's folk. His preference for night over day, his unusual dietary requests from the local grocer, and most strikingly, his lack of interaction during the church gatherings. Dmitri's arrival was slowly stirring the peaceful town, its curiosity tinged with a hint of unease. Then there was the music. Night after night, a hauntingly beautiful melody would waft from the mansion, drifting through the town. No one knew what instrument Dmitri played, or if it was Dmitri at all, but the music, as eerie as it was, somehow became a part of the town's nocturnal life. The tale of Dmitri and his nighttime walks soon became fodder for hushed whispers. The town's folk, generally welcoming and warm, began viewing him through the lens of suspicion. Youngsters dared each other to sneak around the mansion, and tales of shadows moving swiftly behind the mansion's curtained windows began to circulate. The town was changing, and an air of mystery hung heavy, quietly fraying the edges of the tranquil tapestry of Hepsburg. As the sun set one evening, the pale light dimming over the old mansion, Dmitri stood watching from his balcony. The cool wind ruffled his dark hair, and a predatory smile played on his lips. The night was young, and Hepsburg was just beginning to reveal its secrets. But the biggest secret of all was Dmitri himself, a secret the town was yet to unravel, the secret of the vampire who now called Hepsburg home. Even the most idyllic of towns harbor their share of secrets, and Hepsburg was no exception. Yet, the riddles now encompassing the quiet town were not its own, but those of the newcomer, Dmitri. As the mystery of the nighttime melodies and secretive lifestyle heightened, so did the unease amongst the townsfolk. In a town where the sunset painted picturesque panoramas of serene beauty, shadows began to hold an uncanny menace. Murmurs of missing livestock and inexplicable sightings grew. The town's life began to revolve around the mansion at the edge, and whispers of the eternal shadows started to take shape. One night, during one of his evening strolls, Dmitri encountered young Tom Hawkins, a brave but foolish lad, known for his daring antics. Tom, encouraged by the reckless confidence of youth, decided to confront the mystery head-on. "I'm not afraid of you," he declared, his voice trembling slightly, betraying his words. Dmitri simply stared, an amused glint dancing in his eyes before he turned and disappeared into the shadows. It was the last time anyone saw Tom. When dawn broke, the town woke to the chilling news of Tom's disappearance. A search party was formed, but all they found was his jacket near the woods, close to Dmitri's mansion, its fabric stained with an ominous red. Fear descended upon Hepsburg like a shroud, each resident now viewing the other with a mixture of suspicion and dread. Nighttime no longer belonged to the serene songs of crickets, but was a symphony of fear, each note echoing the town's growing terror. Amid this trepidation, the local librarian, Miss Emily, discovered something peculiar. A series of old news articles, yellowed with time, speaking of strange occurrences and disturbingly familiar circumstances. They were tales from various towns across centuries, each involving a mysterious stranger, unexplained disappearances, haunting nighttime melodies, and stories of vampires. With the newfound evidence, the brave but shaken townsfolk decided to investigate Dmitri's mansion. Armed with nothing more than courage and desperation, they marched towards the source of their dread as the sun set, casting long, ominous shadows. As they approached, the mansion seemed to loom larger, its ghoulish silhouette a monstrous specter against the dimming light. Fear hung in the air, dense as fog, as they stealthily entered the mansion. The interior was as grand as it was eerie, filled with antique furniture draped in dust-covered sheets, and walls adorned with uncanny portraits of individuals bearing an uncanny resemblance to Dmitri. In the heart of the mansion, they found the source of the music, a grand piano. But next to it, their blood ran cold. There, on a majestic table, was a collection of strange and sinister objects. A blood-stained chalice, an archaic map pinpointing various towns including their own, and an aged mirror that didn't reflect anything. But the most terrifying was a portrait, not of Dmitri, but of Tom, his face pale, his eyes vacant, forever immortalized in canvas. The real horror unfolded as the last rays of sunlight disappeared, and the moon took reign. From somewhere deep within the mansion, a low growl echoed, resonating with a palpable hunger that twisted the bravest hearts into knots of fear. Hepsburg's quiet facade had been shattered, its tranquility replaced by an unending nightmare. The shadow of the vampire loomed larger than ever, consuming all light, all hope. The chilling tale of the eternal shadows was only beginning. The revelations in Dmitri's mansion sent shockwaves through the already terror-stricken town of Hepsburg. The town's pleasant dawns were now replaced with mornings painted in fear, the sunrise not bringing the promise of a new day, but the haunting reality of the nightmare they were living in. As the news of the gruesome discovery in Dmitri's mansion spread, the once unified town began to fracture under the weight of their shared fear. People started to avoid each other, locked their doors at sundown, and the cheerful gatherings in the town square became a thing of the past. Hepsburg was morphing into a town of paranoia and despair, but amidst the fear and uncertainty, a glimmer of courage sparked within the hearts of the Hepsburg residents. Determined to protect their town and their loved ones, a small group of brave individuals led by Sheriff Dalton, Miss Emily, and the town's pastor, Father O'Hara, decided to delve deeper into the horrifying mysteries of Dmitri. Venturing into the restricted section of the town library, Miss Emily discovered ancient texts and folklore about the undead, or vampires. Tales of nocturnal beings with eternal life, their existence sustained on the life essence of the living, their blood. With this knowledge, the dread became tangible. Tom's mysterious disappearance, the blood-stained chalice in Dmitri's mansion, his strange behavior, all the pieces of the horrifying puzzle were falling into place. The stranger in their midst was not a man, but a creature of the night, a vampire. However, the most disturbing information was about a ritual, the blood moon rite, an unholy ceremony that gave the vampire unparalleled power and the ability to control the town's populace. The map in Dmitri's mansion suddenly made sense. It wasn't merely a collection of towns, but previous victims of this gruesome ritual. With the blood moon approaching, Hepsburg was poised to be the next. In the dead of night, as a chilling melody echoed from the mansion, another horrific event struck Hepsburg. Martha, the beloved baker, was found lifeless in her home. Her body pale and cold, 2 puncture wounds on her neck. The sight sent a fresh wave of terror through the town. The vampire had claimed another victim. The fear was no longer an intangible specter, but a devastating reality. The once peaceful town was on the verge of losing not just its people, but also its spirit. Yet, in the face of unspeakable horror, the townsfolk found their resolve. They were the last line of defense against the bloodthirsty vampire, and they would stand their ground. Even as Hepsburg was gripped in the icy fingers of fear, the determined group formulated a plan to stop the monster in their midst. Sheriff Dalton announced a town meeting in the church, the only place they believed to be safe from Dmitri's clutches. The mission was clear. The battle lines were drawn, and the town of Hepsburg was about to wage war on the darkness that had consumed their lives. The sun rose the next morning, blood red, a grim reminder of the previous night's horror. The once gentle dawn now reflected the bloody fate of Hepsburg, caught in the deadly dance with a vampire. The once humble church in the heart of Hepsburg had now become a fortress, a beacon of hope in a town gripped by darkness. The sight of the aged wooden building brought a sense of safety, a whisper of reassurance, as the townsfolk gathered within its protective walls. Sheriff Dalton, the picture of stern determination, addressed the crowd. Fear hung in the air, as palpable as the cool evening breeze, yet underneath it lay a sense of resolve. The people of Hepsburg were ready to fight back. Armed with knowledge from the ancient texts, Miss Emily outlined the characteristics of their supernatural foe, the vampire. Silver, garlic, holy water, and a stake through the heart, she listed, her voice steady despite the terror gnawing at her heart. Father O'Hara, his usually kind eyes hardened with resolve, sanctified the weapons. Every blade, bullet, and stake was blessed, turning them into weapons of divine justice. The group now had a name: the Twilight Hunters. Their mission was to protect Hepsburg, their families, their future. Each passing moment, the impending blood moon grew closer, the tension within Hepsburg escalating. The hunters began their grim preparation. The town's blacksmith worked tirelessly, fashioning silver bullets and sharp stakes. Others hung garlic on their doors, filled vials with holy water, and adorned their homes with crosses. Late into the night, while Hepsburg braced for its new reality, a chilling melody echoed from the mansion at the edge of town. The hauntingly beautiful notes resonated within the townsfolk, a ghastly reminder of the horror lurking nearby. One evening, as the last vestiges of sunlight gave way to the ominous night, the Twilight Hunters set out on their first expedition. The mansion, once a symbol of wealth and grandeur, now stood as a monstrous edifice, radiating palpable malevolence. As they approached, the night sky darkened ominously. The mansion, bathed in an eerie glow, seemed to pulsate with an unseen life force. Despite the chilling aura, the hunters steeled themselves, their resolve unwavering. They had entered the vampire's lair. Inside, they were greeted by an unsettling silence, the only sound their own shaky breaths. As they navigated the labyrinthine mansion, they discovered more disturbing signs of Dimitri's true nature. Coffins hidden in secret rooms, chains stained with old blood, and an underground chamber where the horrific blood moon rite was evidently performed. In the heart of the mansion, they found something unexpected. Dimitri, seated at the grand piano, his fingers caressing the keys to create the haunting melody. His crimson eyes flashed in the candlelight, a predatory smile playing on his lips. He was not surprised by their arrival. He had been expecting them. A terrifying confrontation ensued, the peaceful quiet of the night disrupted by the echoes of struggle. The hunters fought bravely, but Dimitri's supernatural strength was formidable. They barely escaped, their courage rattled, their spirits dampened. One among them, young Billy, had not been so lucky. The vampire had claimed another victim. The horrifying reality hit the hunters hard. They were not merely up against a creature of the night, but a predator, centuries old, who reveled in the hunt. As the dawn painted the sky with shades of crimson, reflecting the bloody events of the night, the hunters realized their battle was far from over. Hepsburg's fight against the eternal shadows was only just beginning. The Twilight Hunters returned to the church, their faces pale and drawn. The death of Billy, one of their own, weighed heavily on their hearts. Yet there was no time for grief. The blood moon was upon them, and with it, the deadly rite that could doom Hepsburg. They regrouped, taking stock of their dwindling supplies and the creeping sense of dread. They were wounded, but not defeated. Each life lost was another reminder of their grim task. Their resolve hardened. The hunters began preparations for their final confrontation. As the blood moon began to rise, painting the sky with a sinister glow, Dimitri began his ritual. The chilling melody from his piano now held a hypnotic power, and the townsfolk felt an unsettling compulsion to leave their homes. Like moths to a flame, they were drawn towards the mansion. Inside the mansion, the hunters battled not just Dimitri, but also their entranced neighbors, trying desperately to halt the ritual. They fought bravely, their blessed weapons slashing through the darkness. Yet the vampire's strength was overwhelming. It seemed Hepsburg's fate was sealed. But then, something unexpected happened. Amidst the chaos, a figure emerged. Tom, thought to be lost forever. His eyes, once full of life, now held an eerie glow. Yet there was a spark of his old self, a shred of humanity that the vampire had failed to extinguish. With a defiant cry, Tom lunged at Dmitri. Caught off guard, Dmitri was momentarily distracted, giving the hunters a chance. Sheriff Dalton seized the moment, driving a stake into the vampire's heart. A terrible scream echoed through the mansion as Dmitri's form crumbled into dust, his curse lifted. The entranced townsfolk awoke, dazed and confused. Their nightmare was finally over. Despite the victory, the mood was somber. The cost had been too high. As they mourned their losses, the first rays of dawn pierced the blood-red sky, promising a new beginning for Hepsburg. The night of the blood moon was over, but its haunting memories would forever be etched in the annals of the town's history. In the aftermath of the horrific battle, Hepsburg was forever changed. The memory of the blood moon night hung over the town like a grim specter, but with the threat vanquished, life began to cautiously resume. The townsfolk rebuilt, mended, and tried to forget the monstrous horror that had visited them. However, the Twilight Hunters could not forget. Their lives were irrevocably marked by the darkness they had faced. They became the town's silent guardians, their purpose forever tied to the shadows. With the victory over Dmitri, they had tasted the bitter tang of war against the undead, and they knew that the darkness was far from eradicated. Sheriff Dalton, the leader of the hunters, now wore an additional badge beside his sheriff's star, a symbol of their group, a stake and a moon. Miss Emily turned the library into a sanctuary of knowledge, collecting every piece of information on vampires and other supernatural creatures. Father O'Hara, the spiritual guide, prayed every day for Hepsburg's safety, his church a sanctuary for the townsfolk. And Tom, who had been changed by Dmitri, found himself in a strange half-life existence. Not entirely human, yet not a vampire, he was a bridge between two worlds. His return was a bitter reminder of their loss, yet also a beacon of hope, a testament to Hepsburg's resilience. The recovery was slow and painful. The town bore the scars of the terrifying events, reminders etched into its heart. Yet, the people of Hepsburg discovered a strength within themselves that they hadn't known before. They found unity in their shared horror, their bonds strengthened by the trials they had endured. They were survivors, their spirit undying like the ever-burning lantern in the church's tower. Yet a new normal began to establish itself. The laughter returned to the homes, the children started playing in the streets again, and the town square once again became a place for gatherings. The memory of horror faded into the backdrop, though never entirely forgotten. One day, as the setting sun painted the sky with hues of gold and purple, a stranger rode into Hepsburg. His arrival was met with silent stares and whispered apprehensions, a grim echo of Dmitri's first appearance. But this time, Hepsburg was not a naive and unsuspecting town. This time, they were prepared. The Twilight Hunters, silent guardians of Hepsburg, were ready to face whatever darkness threatened their peace. As the stranger approached, Dalton's hand rested on his silver-coated gun, and Miss Emily clutched a vial of holy water. Father O'Hara held his rosary, a silent prayer on his lips, while Tom watched the stranger with his unusual eyes. This was the new Hepsburg, no longer a peaceful, naive town, but a fortified bastion standing against the darkness. They were survivors of the night, warriors of the twilight, ready to face whatever horror the world might bring their way. They had seen the face of the beast and lived to tell the tale. They were no longer afraid of the shadows, for they had become the hunters. As the story of Hepsburg came to a close, a new tale was ready to unfold under the watchful eyes of the Twilight Hunters. The quiet town would forever remember the bloody dawn and the night of horrors, a testament to their strength and resilience. Hepsburg had not just survived, it had evolved, forever ready to face the approaching dusk and the monsters that lurked within.